everyone!
Welcome to our podcast. We would like to talk about two amazing places that you must visit while exploring Łódź. Maybe you had a chance to hear about, or maybe you have already been in one of the most popular places in the city called Manufaktura. It may seem like a normal shopping mall, but in reality it's much more important to Łódź and it's deeply connected with its past. Inside the walls of this huge complex of buildings, there is a whole history of textiles hidden. Łódź was well known from them in the old times. The place, now filled with shops, cafes, not so long ago was crowded with workers and full of various machines.
The past of Manufaktura is shown in the Museum of Factory, which is located inside one of the buildings, not so far from the cinema and other attractions. It's not spectacularly big, but the amount of information and stories about the development and history of the founder and workers absolutely makes up for it.
All of the texts that we can see in the museum are in both Polish and English, which makes visiting this place possible to foreigners.
While walking around, we'll find blueprints and construction plans compared to how the factory looks nowadays. On the exhibition display, we can look at old newspapers, prints, and pictures. Another display shows the story of the founder of Manufaktura, that is, Izrael Kalmanowicz Poznański. His closest family was really big, and by really, I mean that he had 7 siblings and 7 kids.
If I'd had to put up with this many people around me constantly, I'd go crazy in no time.
His descendants live to this day, scattered all over the world. There was even a family gathering arranged for them in 2010, and 40 people came.
But going back to the museum, we can also get to know the everyday life of workers. A whole separate room is dedicated especially for films that show the life of those people.
Generally, while watching the exhibitions, we may feel like we've moved several dozen years back, especially when looking from up close at the real machines that were producing fabrics in the past.
To this display are also added swatches of different types of fabrics.
Additionally, we are able to see on what scale the factory operated, and I was absolutely stunned when I saw the amount of machines that were used, and it wasn't even all of them.
Also, if you'd like to see Manufaktura from the bird's view, it's possible to go on a terrace where you can have a good look around the whole place.
There is a board where you can read about the purpose of every building. It was interesting experience getting to know what the place we always knew from being a shopping mall was originally built for.
Izrael Poznański, the founder of the factory mentioned before, in 1877 bought a beautiful house known as the Poznański Palace. Its unique interior is truly breathtaking. Walking through the rooms feels like you're in another time. The splendor with which they are decorated made my jaw drop.
But the part that amazed me the most were ceilings. I wandered around looking up all the time because I couldn't take my eyes out of the stunning ceiling decorations.
I can agree with that. Some of the rooms are enormous, like the representative room. Some are smaller, but all of them are equally extraordinary.
The palace came through a lot of reconstructions, but there are some elements that remember the times of Poznański's family. For example, the lanterns in the garden. Thanks to the Museum of the City of Łódź, whose the palace have been a seat since 1975, and the renovations they did, now it looks very similar to the original building.
This place is beautiful both on the outside and inside, and definitely worth seeing. We especially recommend taking a walk around the beautiful garden. However, the Poznański Palace deserves a visit not only because of its looks. There is of course, a lot of exhibitions like Arthur Rubinstein Music Gallery, Mark Edelman and Alina Margolis Edelman's office, and more. We'll focus on, in our opinion, the most interesting one of them.
The exhibition is called Łódź in Europe, Europe in Łódź, the promised land yesterday and today. This exposition shows the history of the city from the beginning of its development in 19th century to the year 1989. We can explore it in any way we want. There are color-coded zones in which there are old items, photos, mock-ups, touchscreens and games.
I think what I liked the most were the sliding touchscreens that showed information about the items underneath them. But this whole exhibition was really entertaining as well.
The possibility of looking at many objects from up close, even touching some of them, is just amazing.
That also allows people who are blind to still be able to enjoy and learn something from the exhibitions.
Interacting with the screens and playing educational mini-games made this experience very enjoyable. Even though we spent a lot of time there, I would definitely visit this place again.
We hope that we managed to spark your interest and that you'll consider visiting these two places that hold so much of the history of Łódź.
We recommend seeing it all by your own eyes because it's a great experience, whether you want to go alone, with your friends or your family.
Every information we used in our podcast comes from internet websites of the museums and our own observations.
Thank you very much for listening.